vision, but we're just going to go with the flow, okay? Essentially, we're just going to go through the materials that we have covered in the past 2 lessons, right? So we have some sample answers for speaking part 1, and then some sample answers in speaking part 2. I think that the point of this exercise is for you guys to revise some of the vocabulary items that you have learned along the way, and to remind you of the phrases that you have not learned, right? You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then we also have speaking part 3, and I imagine that in speaking part 3, you guys would have to essentially come up with questions based on the content provided here. Okay, never mind. Let's get the ball rolling with speaking part 1. Here. Okay. So in speaking part 1, there are 2 exercises. For the very first exercise, I'm just going to ask you questions. You get to, just grab the ball and run with it. You can use you should use the sentence that is given to you, and then you can add any extensions of your liking, right? And then we're going to match with some of the the rest of the answers here to see if you have actually learned a thing or two from your lessons, right? So we have 2 purposes here. The first one is to check your general ability to extend your answers, right? So I'm just going to ask you questions. You can use this here, and then you add your own extensions. Just make sure that everything makes sense. And for some of you, I might want to check your ability to use some of the words that you were taught, because these questions have already been covered. Okay. Well, that's all. And then we have one more exercise for speaking part 1 answers. And then we move on to part 2, and and the rest would be for part 3. Okay, now let's start with Wang, please. Wang, did you enjoy drawing as a kid?
Yes, when I was in primary school, I had several. Uh, uh, yes, when I was in primary school, I had several drawing classes in a week. I still remember that my teacher was very creative. She just assigned some assignments for us and let us took the ball and run with it. I remember that, for example, in a time I drew a alien with strange faces, but to my surprise, she gave me a lot of compliments.
Thank you. Well then, are your drawing skills useful in what you do now?
I guess no, because my jobs typically involves teaching and communicating with my students and my parents, which don't require much something related to creative. So I think that drawings may be not that important for my work and for my studying.
Okay. That should be fine. Let's move on then. Z, please. Would you let anyone draw you? Z, can you hear me?
Okay. Could you ask the question again?
Would you let anyone draw you?
Uh, well, it depends. I'd love to be drawn by street artists who kind of like know a thing or two about me, or even who is familiar with me. Um, for to be honest with you, I don't think I'm handsome enough to be featured in a drawing. So I'm camera shy as well. So it's not a great idea. I think so.
Thank you. Do you want to enhance your drawing skills in the future?
Well, I'm an engineer right now, so I don't think that drawing is still necessary. I mean, most people still expect engineers to draw by hand, but it it isn't the case anymore because we just use computers instead. So drawings maybe can be like a recreational activity, but it isn't serious. I mean, it doesn't need to be serious for me.
Fine. Okay. We're going to have one more run with these questions. Okay. Chang Võ, please. Did you enjoy drawing as a kid?
Hello, teacher.
Hmm.
Yes, when I were in, I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention at first, so I will use your structure, right? And then I continue with that, or
With your own ideas.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yes, when I was in primary school, I have several drawing classes in a week, but I didn't really enjoy that. I feel that I didn't have a knack for drawings. Uh, though I have to draw some basic like paintings, but I I'm not really into that. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Would you let anyone draw you?
Well, it depends. I love to be drawn by street artists who, I think, really talented or maybe experienced. Because I think they have good ability to capture my expressions very well. So yeah, maybe yes.
Hmm. Thank you. That should be it. Khả Anh, please. Would you say that your drawing skills are useful in what you do now?
Um, I guess I can say no because I'm still a student and I I got nothing to do with drawings,
Hmm.
and also my drawing skills are so bad that whenever see my my old pictures, it really get on my nerves.
Hmm.
And
Thank you.
also
So do you want to enhance your drawing skills in the future?
I would say no, but if I have like a lot of free time, I think I can attend some drawing classes because I think in some of my lesson I can, make the lesson more comprehensive by providing some mm, vivid illustrations to it.
Thank you. That should be it for the time being. I think among the four of you, only Chang is excluded from the second target here, which is your ability to use some of the words that you were taught. Before we match, these hints with the rest of the answers, I want to give you some feedback. But Oanh, I thought that your answers were fine, but some of the words were not like properly and clearly pronounced. For instance, let us, there must be an S at the end. One time.
Let us.
Okay. And down here, there were a few logical errors along the way. So you were talking about the fact that you were working as a teacher at an English center, if I'm not mistaken. And you said that you had to focus on communicating with the kids and their parents, not your parents, not my parents. It's their parents. Okay? Their parents, not my parents. You said my parents, which wouldn't make any sense. Related to creative. Creative is an adjective, right? So you're supposed to say related to creativity, right?
Yeah.
Creative
Relate.
work, and maybe not that important. I think the more appropriate grammatical structure here would be may not be that important. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you had a good run though. Let's continue. For some reason, I still majorly disliked your pace. I'm not quite sure why, but I just didn't feel like you had confidence, or should I say, you didn't exactly emanate confidence through the way that you spoke. Because I felt like you were like thinking about the next word to say all the time. I'm not quite sure why, to be honest. So this is me saying something that is super vague and subjective, but well, I'm gonna tell you what I thought, right? And then like you get to do what you want to do with it. But I just feel like if you can somehow inject a better flow or a bit more confidence in the way that you deliver your answers, um, that would have been better in my opinion. Like, I understood everything that you said, and this time around, well, there was still two errors, but I didn't think that you misused any idioms and things like that. I just felt like there was something missing that certain je ne sais quoi that was missing from your answers. For me, it was your confidence. I didn't feel like you were able to actually speak fluently in a confident kind of way. That's all. Here, even who is familiar with me. Well, that jumped up out of nowhere. So you said that, all right, so you would love to be drawn by street artists who knows you or even who is familiar with you. I'm not quite sure what this means. Are you talking about street artists who know you, who knows you, and street artists who know you and your friends, or artists who know you, or maybe just your friends? What do you mean by
What I
that?
meant, yeah, and what I meant by that was someone who kind of knew me. Just knew, I mean, yeah, someone who knew
Knew who?
me, only me.
Okay, so essentially you were saying, I would love to be drawn by artists who know me.
Hmm.
So in a way, perhaps some of my friends can do it.
Hmm.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
this part felt
yeah,
unnatural to
yeah,
me.
yeah. It could have been better.
To be featured in a drawing, my God, hmm, too robotic. No one ever says that. You can say, I don't feel confident enough to be drawn. That's all. And
Okay.
the whole point about photos produced by cameras was completely off topic. All right.
Mhm.
For your second answer, I thought that it was fine, but again, I just didn't feel like you were actually fluent. I felt like you were translating words at the back of your mind because of the way that you paced your answer. But perhaps that's just me, or maybe the quality of your voice. I don't know. Maybe it was because of the texture of your voice, not the actual cognitive processes that were happening or not happening. Well, do something about it, Z.
Certainly.
For Chang Võ here, right, you had very clear pronunciation, but you struggled a little bit, and that was understandable because you were forced to start in a particular way. Um, I felt like you were caught off guard a little bit, right? So I had several drawing classes in a week. I didn't enjoy, not that, I did enjoy them. I didn't really enjoy them. And you said something about basic paintings. Um, to be honest, when it comes to speaking, you do get to pause every once in a while, but you're not supposed to pause when the next word that you're going to put out is a basic word. This one is literally a basic word. Okay, Chan?
Yes.
Mm.
Thank
We're
you.
going to do something about that. Like, my advice would be for you to essentially think of an idea rather
Yeah.
than words to express that idea. And then, once you have decided on what you want to talk about, you can
Yeah.
just go through a bunch of words that are supposed to express that idea, right? But then
Yeah.
again, I do think that it's a rather advanced skill. But well, that's an idea for you to think about, right? That's some food for thought, and we're gonna work on that, I
Yes.
suppose.
I feel that I get stuck whenever I need to express something, especially when someone asked me and I didn't prepare. Yeah, so I can't find out the idea, and sometimes I feel that I get stuck when I would like to express more. So how could I, yeah, how could I improve my speed of thinking? What do you think?
Well, you can think of details. I mean, there are very simple tricks, but I'm not quite sure if they are actually that applicable. I
Yeah,
mean, when it comes to idea extension, you definitely need to think of details,
yeah,
right? But the problem is if you're talking about something for the very first time, or like when you're caught in a rather, you know, unexpected situation, it's hard for you to maintain your composure and then come up with like new ideas on the spot. So
yeah,
that's something that definitely is very challenging in my opinion. But you can learn to like talk about something in different ways. You can talk about like generic details, like what it looks like. Essentially, you use the WH questions.
yeah,
But the thing about WH questions is that they can only go so far. And if your mind, if your brain shuts down, it shuts down, right? You're not gonna be able to think anything.
yeah,
So when that happens, you need banks of ideas that you're very familiar with. Like if you often talk about prices or your schedules and things like that, when you're unable to come up with like novel ideas on the spot, you can fall back on these more familiar ideas. So the next
yeah.
question is, do you have any familiar ideas, or do you always like speak your mind and every sentence is a new one for you?
Yeah, every sentence is the new one for me. Uh, when I feel that when I try to learn by heart, I mean, when I try to learn ideas, I keep forgetting. So, and then next time I just uh use something really basics to express that.
There's
Maybe I
nothing wrong
didn't
with
try.
it.
Yeah,
Sure. I had to cut you off because I knew
yeah,
what
yeah,
you were
yeah,
going to
yeah,
say. Yes,
yeah,
say next.
yeah,
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 I do think that it takes a fair bit of practice, and you might want to mix things up every once in a while to keep things, interesting and dynamic.
yeah,
But I do have to say that, for the time being, all I can tell you is that you don't really have to learn by heart everything, and it is a very boring thing to do. But if you want to improve your accuracy and precision as well as your reflexes, there's no other way. You do have to learn by heart a certain number of ideas, and then you can mix and match them however you want once you have actually gained mastery over them. But that's all I can say for the time being, because this dealing with issues like that is essentially the content of the entire course, right? So just
yes,
gonna
yeah,
give you some direction for the time being.
yeah,
Think
yes,
about think about the fact that you might need to have some ideas that you're very familiar with. Have you got them in your arsenal? If you haven't got any like interesting or familiar ideas to work with in your word chest, it means that there's work to be done in that area. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now,
Sorry, everyone. Mm-mm.
no,
Yeah,
that's fine. That's fine.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't have to apologize to nobody. Anyway, you don't have to apologize to anybody. Sorry, people. My English is not exactly on point today. Khả Anh, please. My pictures, it gets on my nerves. I mean, they get on my nerves. Right. Khả Anh, turn on the mic. You have one
Oh,
job.
yes.
They get
My
on my
pictures, they
nerves.
get on my nerves.
Okay. Um, your second answer was fine, but I dislike the way that you stretched the word. I think that was so random. I mean, you can say that in a very
Like,
specific situation. Like, I know that you were thinking. Were you actually thinking?
yes. Just,
Sure, but that was still not, a reliable way to extend your answer or to deliver this phrase. You can say, well, I think that you have to pace it like that. If you say, well, I think that I don't think that I have heard anybody saying that. You can say, I would
just
say that I'll say, I think essentially you cannot break these two words. They're only two words. You're not supposed to break them apart. Understand? No
Yes.
more that rhythm. You have to say, I think. You can, switch things up with a different intonation, but you cannot cut these two words out. Providing some
Okay.
vivid illustrations. When I knew what you were going to say, and the first word that sprang to mind was including, not providing. You could have said
Yes.
include. I could have I think that I would include or I would add, right?
Add,
These words
yes.
are much better than providing. Okay.
Okay.
That should be fine. All right, let's continue. Let's match these clues with the rest of the answers. V, I'm going to entrust you with this task. Now, sorry, let me send the file to you guys. My God. All right. Okay, now V, please. The first one, when I was in primary school, I had several drawing classes in a week.
Number 4, our teacher who was very supportive.
Okay. I think I missed something here. What I liked about them, right? What I liked about them was our teacher who was super supportive. So on and so forth. Continue, please. Are your drawing skills useful in what you do now?
Working as a science teacher and every once in a while.
Okay, good. Yeah. I wonder why I chopped these answers like this one. I'm working as, sure, a science teacher. Fine. Wow, the fact that these answers like brand new to me is a problem. I wrote these answers. Continue, V. Would you let anyone draw you?
Um,
Street artists who?
do satirical drawings.
Nice. Satirical drawing. A massive forehead. I mean, that's so predictable. I mean, look at this forehead. There's like a 5 head. And my receding hairline is not making things better. Now, continue the last one.
Sufficient as far as drawing illustrations is concerned.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm just going to ask you to make sentences with some of the idioms here, and then we're going to move on to the second goal of this activity, which is checking your ability to use some of the words that you were taught. Now, V, please, can you make a sentence? Not a sentence, but give me an answer. We have a question for you. Were you there in that lesson when I essentially subjected everybody to a very long monologue of the difference between a complete idea and chunks of words?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you know what you need to do now. Essentially, I want you to use this idea in a context, not just in a sentence. Give me a full-blown context. So that means you're going to give me at least 2 to 3 sentences. Okay? Take the ball and run with it. Take the ball and run with it. Yeah, you get to do that now.
Mm, so,
Let's talk about perhaps a project at school.
so there was a day that my teacher gave us a simple idea for a class project, and she didn't give us any more instructions and let us just take the ball and run with it. And then we had to do some more research and turn it into a creative presentation.
Okay, but that was a bit forced. But okay, that was acceptable. You could have said, so yeah, for that particular project, in mathematics, our teacher just gave us like, the overall theme with no other instructions. And so, we just, took the ball and ran with it. I did some research on the internet while my friends worked out different ways to, present the information. So we had lots of fun, doing that project in mathematics. It was certainly a different thing compared to what we usually did. Okay?
Yeah.
Wow. Slightly disappointed though, B. Slightly.
We didn't do anything like that before. So
We did do that. What are you
no,
talking about? Hold on. Let me pull up some receipts. Hold on.
no, we haven't.
We did. I gave everybody a lecture about that. Yeah. Maybe not this one. That was a file with lots of words. Not here. I can still recall it vaguely, but it did happen. You're not gonna pull any stunt on me, girl. Hold on. Oh, wrong file. Just a moment, people. I cannot lose this argument. Not this one. 8. In the meantime, I'm just gonna stall some time by having conversations with other people. Now, I'm about to launch a reading listening intensive course, which nobody here should have any interest in, right? Because you are able to learn things on your own. But when was the last time you actually completed a full test? Now, Miss Chang Fan, please. When was the last time you completed a full reading or listening test?
Well, maybe a year ago because I have experienced a lot of things last year.
Mm.
Yeah. So
You had 2 babies.
yeah, and a lot of things more than that, like my health problems. So I didn't have much time to do it or pay attention to anything related to IELTS.
Fine. So the last time you did a reading or listening full test was last year.
Yes, kind of.
Okay. That's fine. For me, it was like 2018 or something, like when we first met. It was way back then. But okay, thank you, Miss Chang. Now, V, I have receipt here. Can you see this?
Yeah, I mean, but it is related to the idiom.
Nonsense. We have all kinds of idioms here. Nothing going on at a loose end.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
See, I know
Yeah.
my craft. Right? All right, people, you're not gonna mess me up. All right, thank you. Let's continue. Wang, based on these sample answers, would you consider yourself to be a competent student in this class who is actually able to use most of the words that you were taught? Wang,
Maybe yes.
50%. Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head in the very first answer, but you kind of just, took the ball and ran with it in the second answer. Okay, fine. Now the same question for you, Z. Did you manage to learn a thing or two from these sample answers? And did you manage to use, these things in your answers?
Well, yeah, I think so.
Really? Can you tell me the idioms or the nice vocabulary that you actually were able to use?
Like, put a spin on things.
Really?
Uh-huh. Um,
But that idiom is not even used here. I want to give
maybe.
you 10%. Generously, 10%. Okay, next then. Khải Anh,
Yes.
same question. Were you able to use any of the words that I taught you through these sample answers?
I think I could use polish skill. That's like horn skill.
You clearly did not use it in your own answers.
Yes, I just didn't remember.
Get on my nerves. Okay, I'm going to give you the credit for this particular phrase, although you used it grammatically inaccurately. but sure, you managed to use this idiom. But then outside of this one, I'm gonna generously give you 2%.
20%.
20 would be greedy. Yes, that would be unreasonable. Okay, people. So essentially the focus of this particular activity is for you to have a moment of reflection and perhaps experience, and then you can experience feelings of shame because apparently you did not learn a thing from these sample answers. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that like when you go through these sample answers, the first thing that you need to check is whether or not you can actually answer them on your own. That's a very important point. You don't really need to use my ideas or my vocabulary, but you need to make sure that if you have already covered these questions in the course, the onus is on you to prove that you can actually answer them on your own, right? That's the first goal. Everybody here is able to do that. But then for the second goal, which is using what you have learned, I do think that, everybody here, perhaps bar me, has this illusion that you have learned a lot of things. But when it comes to speaking, the only way to verify that is to, check whether you have actually put the words to good use. And well, okay, Oanh was able to do that. I would say Duy and Ka Anh are also able to do that, but not in this particular lesson. That's all. They have certainly learned idioms and they can use some of the idioms that I have. I don't want to say I taught them because perhaps they learned these idioms from other sources, but essentially they have done something, right, to include better language, into their responses. But as far as these answers are concerned, they completely missed the mark. And apparently that the proportion of vocabulary that they was able to employ to address these questions was almost zero, right? So that was just a wake-up call for some of you when it comes to assessing whether or not you have actually learned anything from a course. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that you need to be informed of the fact that perhaps you haven't really learned all that much and you need to do something about it. Okay? Duy and Khả Anh and also Oanh as well, but Oanh did her fair share of the work here. Okay, let's move on. We're gonna move on with a harder exercise. Oh my God, I have no idea why they decided to include this kind of challenge in the, in the university entrance examination. Like, oh, sure, but all right, this is the exercise of rearranging the different fragments to form complete answers. We're gonna go through, just one or two answers, and then we're gonna move on to part two. Now, the purpose of this particular exercise is for you to learn to think in complete ideas. You understand? Complete ideas. So complete ideas are slightly different from chunks of words. I think that all of you know how to learn idioms and phrases from chunks in the form of, chunks of words, then like groups of words, right? But if you keep on speaking in chunks of words, you may end up sounding like this. When I was a child, when I am at a loose end, I don't really like learning mathematics because it's really hard and it involves a lot of formula. As you can see, the pace is a bit too slow. There's nothing wrong with the meaning or the grammatical accuracy of the sentence. But when you speak like that, it's really hard to convince the examiner that you can speak fluently, right? Because you're essentially separating grammar phrases like when I'm, I don't like, because, right? Grammar phrases from meaning phrases or vocabulary phrases like when I'm at a loose end. At a loose end, now that's an idiom, right? There are lots of formula. That's, a vocabulary chunk, right? So like if you want to move to the next level, you should learn to combine both grammar and vocabulary in a chunk or an utterance. An utterance is something that you say, that's all, right? But you need to combine both of them instead of separating grammatical phrases from vocabulary ones, okay? So that sentence would sound a lot more confident and natural if you can say something like, when I'm at a loose end, hold on, when I'm at a loose end, I dislike mathematics. What kind of grammar is that? What kind of meaning is that? Sorry, let me give you another example. When I'm at a loose end, I tend to go swimming. And it's mostly because there's a swimming pool near where I live. And what I like about that place is the fact that it's super spacious. Like there are multiple lanes, and I can swim with other people, and we never bump into one another, right? So you need to cut them into chunks, but not as in like vocabulary chunks and grammar chunks. You have to divide them into chunks that have complete meanings. Okay, that's all. I'm gonna give you all 30 seconds to look at the first question here, and then you can help me rearrange the chunks that would make sense. Okay. Okay. Miss Chung Fong, please. Have a blast.
Yes.
The first one is, I have a question for you, Miss Chang Fat. So I know that you graduated from that Royal University, fancy trade university. I have a question. For your year, did you use IELTS for like pre-qualification, or did you have like the English test like the rest of us or the rest of your peers?
Well, it was such a long time ago, but if my memory serves me right, I did both of them. I mean,
Really?
yes, I could have managed to, take the IELTS test and also pass the English test at my school.
Okay. That
Yeah.
was fine. To be honest, I don't even remember if IELTS was in the picture back then.
Yeah, it was not that important or kind of, Oh, no, no. I remember that it was kind of important before. If you took the IELTS test and got the high band score, your job opportunities or like internship opportunities, were way better.
No, but I was asking about the time that you got into your university, the fancy
Oh,
trade
oh,
university.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Uh, no, of course. No, no. I just took the entrance university exam as other peers. I didn't take any IELTS test before, and even I had no idea about the IELTS test at that time before I
Okay,
got into my university.
nice. And you blew it out of proportion, and you blew things out of not proportion. I'm sorry, I was using the wrong idiom. I was trying to say you you what was the idiom that I was thinking about again? Oh, you blew it out of the water. Yeah. If you can blow something or somebody out of the water, it means that you completely defeat that person or that thing.
Oh,
Right. So you did that, lady. Okay, let's continue. So I think that this is going to be an easy question for you. You can start your run now. I think that's a very lovely suggestion.
oh. I'm sorry.
You
I
need
think.
to you need to arrange these sentences in a proper
Uh,
order.
oh. Okay. So let me see. Oh. I don't know. It seems very hard to me because there are so many words here. Um.
No.
Okay. So actually, I don't have my own room, But I think that is very lovely suggestion.
Oh,
Oh,
so you start
I,
here. I think at the end, the first one is this one. I think that's a very lovely suggestion.
okay, okay. Okay, so I think that is very lovely suggestion.
This one is the
However,
second one. This is the second one. I'm living in an apartment with my mom.
okay, so I had to do all of this, or
Yes, on your own.
oh,
Because honestly, even I don't remember the proper order.
well, let me take a look a bit, a bit. Okay, so I think that's a very lovely suggestion, and I'm living in an apartment with my mom. I don't have my own room, so I don't really think that I can have things my way. Uh, but if the ball were in my court, then yes. And I would definitely buy a nice mirror.
And put it somewhere in the...
Yes, and put it somewhere in the room. It's just that for the time being, and the living room double functions as my room. I'm
That was
sorry.
clumsy work. But okay. I think that we can mix up some of the orders here. I think that's a very lovely suggestion. Oh, okay. It's just for the time being, I'm living with my
Yes. Yeah.
mom and and the living room double functions as my... Hold on, where's number 3 here? Damn man, this question is hard. It's just that for the time being, I'm living in an apartment with my mom, and the living room double functions as my room. So yeah, I don't really think that I can have things my way. But if the ball were in my court, that's a very nice idiom. I mean, if it were up to me, right? If it were up to me. It's a very useful phrase. Like, you know that if you don't really have authority over something and you are still asked to talk about it, then you can say something like, yeah, I mean, if the ball were in my court, if it were up to me, then yeah, this is what I would do. Then yes, I would buy a very nice mirror and put it somewhere in the room. That sounds legit. Can you go through the entire answer again? And make sure you pay attention to your pacing.
Okay. I think that's a very lovely suggestion, and okay. Sorry. I think that's a very lovely suggestion. It's just that for the time being. Oh, I'm sorry. That still doesn't work. Seems not work to me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, maybe I'm living in an apartment with my mom. It's just that, hold on.
Yes. Yeah. It sounds.
There's something wrong here. Damn, man. Like, I cannot believe the two of us cannot solve this damn exercise. Oh, my
Okay.
God.
Okay. Let me start again. Oh, I think that's a very lovely suggestion. Now I'm living in an apartment with my mom, but it's just that for the time being. I mean, I don't have my own room, and the living room double functions as my room. So I don't really think that I can have things my way. But if the ball were in my court, then yes,
I would definitely buy a
I would
nice
definitely,
mirror.
yeah, buy a nice mirror and put it somewhere in the room.
Okay, fine. Sure, I would like you to do it again, but this time around, I think that, look, the purpose of this exercise is to force you to stretch some of the words out so that you can stall for time and look for the next phrase. I'm trying to explain the mechanism of this exercise. Like, you're not supposed to stop in a robotic way. You're still gonna have to piece, all these chunks of words together in a sensible way. And you're not gonna get to do that in an easy way. So because the sentences are misarranged. So what I think the main purpose of this exercise is for you to, first of all, force yourself to stretch some of the words out as you're searching for the next phrase. You understand? So that's going to create a rhythm. And when you're going through a phrase, you're not allowed to break it into, smaller groups. Yeah, that would be the purpose of this exercise. So, Miss Chang, have another go, please. I think.
Oh, okay. I think that's a very lovely suggestion. I'm living in an apartment with my mom. It's just that for the time being, I don't have my own room, and the living room double functions as my room. So I don't really think that I can have things my way. But if the ball were in my court, then yes, I would definitely buy a nice mirror and put it somewhere in the room.
Dang it, man, you fumbled the ball at the very last second. That end was too long.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that's the purpose of this exercise. All right. Thank you for being the guinea pig, Miss Chang. All right. I can't believe that the combination of me and you could not deal with this question in 2 seconds. Oh my God. I've gone rusty. Okay. The third answer, please. You guys have 10 seconds to work out the proper order. Good luck, because you shouldn't count on me, as you can tell. Okay. Just gonna pick a victim here. Okay, Duke, please have a go. I don't think so. It's the first one. Fine.
I don't think so. Uh, or maybe I have. A few years ago, I was teaching a group of primary school students. There were these units about mirrors and images and things like that. I I bought a couple of mirrors to do experiments. We have
Good time.
We have a good time, but that was just about it.
That was just about it. You need to code. I have only purchased. Oh, hold on. What's wrong? What's wrong with this? But I think that okay. I think you missed something here. Right. Let's do that again. I don't think so. Or maybe I have. Right. The second utterance is diabolical. Okay. Or maybe I have.
Maybe I have, but I think I have only purchased mirrors for the purpose of doing scientific experiments. A few years ago, I was teaching a group of primary school students, and there was this unit about mirrors and images and things like that.
I bought a couple of mirrors
I bought a couple of mirrors to do experiment. We have a good time, but that were just about it.
Okay, fine. I'd like you to do it again. And people, let me explain the mechanism as well as the purpose of this activity. Although I'm not quite sure if this is really just me like splitting hairs and trying to make something that is super simple into something that's super complicated and educational. As I've mentioned, when it comes to speaking, I feel like all of you have already gone past the threshold of like learning words separately. You all can learn idioms, right? You all can learn grammar structures, but when you speak, if you keep on relying on grammatical structures and vocabulary items separately, you're gonna separate all of your sentences into grammar chunks and vocabulary chunks. As I've mentioned, you can say something like, when I'm at a loose end, I tend to go to sleep because that's like the most exhilarating activity, or maybe not exhilarating, but it's my way of recharging my batteries. You understand? If you keep on separating like grammatical chunks from vocabulary chunks, you're still going to be able to speak English, but you're going to sound like you're trying to put words together. And so I think that if you want to get like 7.5 and above, you can aim for 8, 8.5, 9 if you want. But the thing is that you need to think more about complete ideas. Understand? And every time you pause, that pause only serves to find the next idea, not the next chunk of words, but the next idea. And as you can see in this exercise, you have chunks that represent complete ideas. Like, these sentences have full meaning, right? You can say something like, I don't think so, or maybe I have, right? And I think the fundamental difference between a complete idea and grammatical and vocabulary phrases is the fact that the complete ideas would combine the other two together. Okay. So when you speak, you have to, think about complete ideas. So when you say when I was a child, you don't think when I was a child. You would just say, okay, when I was a child, right? When you say I'm free, you say when I'm free, when I have nothing going on, when I'm at a loose end. You're not supposed to cut that into two phrases, two chunks. Okay. And so that's the first thing. As you can see, all of these chunks help to express complete ideas. And that's the first thing. The second thing is that as you move from one phrase to another, the only way for you to do so without like pausing for too long to search for the next word is that you have to, stretch your pronunciation out a little bit so that at the back of your mind, you can search for the next complete idea or the next word, depending on, whether, that word is actually very difficult to use. Okay. So essentially, like when you speak, you also need to do something like that. Right? If you're searching for new ideas as you speak, you might want to stretch some of the words out so that you can have a bit more time to think about, the next phrase that's going to come out of your mouth. Okay, that's all. That's it for my monologue. Duke, take it, please.
I don't think so, or maybe I have.
That was too fast. That was too fast. Or maybe I have.
I don't think so, or maybe I have. But I think I have only purchased mirrors for the purpose of doing scientific experiment. A few years ago, I was teaching a group of primary school students, and there was this unit about mirrors and images and things like that. I bought a couple of mirrors to do experiment. We had a good time, but that was just about it.
For some reason, I felt like you sounded like, these old men who would they do all the recordings for our English books. You have that senior people's emanation in your voice. You sound old, that's what I'm saying. Okay, that's it, people. Any question regarding the purpose of this exercise? Zui, any question? Flying, any question? People, have you got any question? This is a speaking class. You need to turn off the mic. Jesus Christ.
No.
Okay, good. So she turned on the mic just to give me a resounding no, a thunderous no. All right, that's fine. Yeah, so I do think that you need to do something like this, okay? Yeah, the tip here is, wow, we dodged a bullet. Look at this last question. How are we going to solve this? We're not. So just going to give you a tip here. Note, to increase fluency, you can, first of all, learn chunks, learn words in chunks. As in like idioms, phrasal verbs, collocations, some grammar structures, right? But the thing is that if you keep on doing it, then you're always going to sound like you're translating words at the back of your mind, right? So you need to learn to combine grammar structures with vocabulary phrases to create utterances with complete ideas. So for instance, when you say when I am, this is grammar, plus at a loose end, this is vocabulary. So when you say when I'm at a loose end, then this is a complete idea, okay? The next thing is that learn to think of complete ideas instead of individual phrases. Oftentimes, it means you might have to think in advance or stall some time to do that. And in order to pull off something like this, you might want to stretch certain words out, especially ones that carry important information, because it makes sense, right? It makes sense. I feel like everything is starting to fall into their rightful places, carry important information. As you stretch these words out, you have a few more tic-tac, a few more. I have a question. What is the smaller unit of second? That's not TikTok, right? TikTok is an app. In Vietnamese, we have TikTok, but then what is TikTok in English?
A split second.
So what is a split of a second called?
Millisecond.
A millisecond. No, I think there's another word for it. A tick. Just one tick. It's called TikTok in Vietnamese. TikTok is the name of an app. So what is that? Like you have minutes, and then it's an hour, minute, second, and after second, what do we have? All right, sure. You have a few more splits of a second. My God, as you can see, this is why I didn't want to use the phrase to think of the next idea. Okay, now so this leads to the next question. The important question here is that do you have ideas, complete ideas? Do you have complete ideas that you know how to express very well? That's a question. And this question should lead very nicely into the next part of the lesson. Dang it, man, this is a good transition. Now, but then again, this is a legit question here. Do you have complete ideas that you know how to express very well? V.
Yeah.
Was that a yeah for the answer or a yeah for?
I mean, yeah. Yes for the question.
Okay, sure. That's a yes for the question. Can you tell me like the overall content of that idea? At least one idea.
Uh,
For instance, I can talk about how busy I am without breaking a sweat. I can talk about the fact that, when I go shopping, I always have to keep tabs on discount codes, right? So, what kinds of complete ideas can you express easily?
Well, I think I would talk about my work.
You can talk about your work. Anything else?
um, about my hobbies about my hobbies in my free time.
Sure, that's fine. Here we're going to move on to the second part of the training, which concerns speaking part 2. The topic here is the description of an English lesson that you had and enjoyed. And okay, you can have a look at this script, and I would like you to help me fill out the blanks. I think that most of them are just idioms. And so you can have a look at these idioms down here as well, and you can tell me which words you're going to use to fill these gaps, okay? Chang, please, Chang Võ. I'd like you to cover from here to here. Just read. I'm going to tell you about.
Yes, I just read, right? I just need to read it, right?
And then fill in the blank.
Filling the blank. Okay. So I'm going to tell you about an English lesson that I really like it. So this happened a while ago when I was still working for my previous company. At the time, I was the head of their science department, which means I was wearing
Was wearing
wearing
many hats.
many hats. And there was this new teacher who was pretty shy, and she was supposed to do a demo lessons. It were a physics lesson about something like thermal processes or things like that, but I had to deliver it in English.
Continue.
It had to be
Hmm.
yeah. So I could tell that she was really
Slightly
slightly, I don't know this phrase because
out
this
of
it
her
out of
element.
out of her elements because she wasn't that fluent in English. So I decided to uh to uh,
You can use the
go
idioms
out.
down here.
Yeah.
Go.
I just go out of my way to help her plans the lessons.
Continue. One of the
w-
things that we did together.
One of the things we did together was going through some of the video illustrating physics process and rehearsing some of their vocabulary related activities. I try not to go overboard and let her work out what was good and what was missing from their equations.
Okay, thank you. Chang, I'd like to say that your pronunciation was very clear. And one of the things that you can do to improve your speaking skill in general would be to, I guess, try to aim for a higher level of consistency, because like I felt like even though you were reading the script, your precision kind of like just dipped in and out. For instance, you were able to say thermal processes, right? You said thermal processes. But when you moved down here, in this particular part, for instance, you said physics process. So you were missing that is, okay?
Yes.
And you're clearly capable of pronouncing ending sounds, but here you said cyan. It should have been sci.
Senses.
No, it's just science. There must be an S here, right? Science department, which not means, which meant.
Meant.
Okay. And also this is not like it's liked with the T at the end.
Yeah. Lights.
Okay. So I guess you can note down some of these words so that you can fix them, I imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I'm doing that. I'm not noting down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do that. I'm not quite sure if you're familiar with the rhythm of this class, but as you can tell, I'm not pulling any punches. And by that I mean if I do have to call you out for your mistakes, I'm gonna do that. It's just that you're a new person here, so I'm gonna tread lightly when I'm around you. But for the other kids, you're not gonna get that privilege. Okay, but anyway, Chang, you can work on that. And I think that fixing pronunciation, it shouldn't be, that big of a deal because, even for very fluent speakers, they mispronounce words from time to time, all right? So don't stress out because of that.
Yes.
Okay, let's continue. Fine, please have a go.
And the demo lesson happened. She didn't exactly hit the ground running. The introduction was messy, but she found her groove. After explaining some of the basic concepts like conduction or convection in English, she organized 2 experiments, which was lots of fun. I loved the fact that the phenomenon were totally observable, and she guided us through the experiments, telling us where to look and eliciting our responses, which was nice. And what stood out for me was the vocabulary revision game. For vocabulary
Sorry.
revision,
Sorry, I think that I tried to use a different combination to sound more natural. The vocabulary revision game, the game for vocabulary revision. Yeah. 3 nouns. That's not a good combination. 2 nouns are already overbearing, right? Was the game for vocabulary revision, though. So what stood out for me was the game for vocabulary revision, though, right?
what stood out for me was the game for vocabulary revision, though. We had to match some words with their definitions, and
Okay, fine. Fine. So I dare to say that, sometimes the trickiest word to pronounce is actually this word, though, because oftentimes it is delivered with a very special intonation. But of course, I don't know how to describe it. But okay, let's have a look at this particular script here. Now, this is not actually, a full-blown description of like a normal English lesson, which I imagine is something that you guys are going to focus on, right? So this is the description of an English lesson, but it's more like, a science lesson. So the question is, why did I choose this particular method? V, please. Why did I choose this method? You would have to read my mind to extract that information.
Because you are more familiar with ideas about science class.
Good. Yeah, that was it. Apparently, I was just more confident with, things related to science. Now, if I have to describe an English class, I'm teaching IELTS right now, but I wouldn't be able to describe my IELTS classes completely off the cuff, right? That's not something that I talk about. Even when I talk to my students, oftentimes we just talk about science. And I can describe a science lesson to you, but not an English lesson, okay? So essentially, I stuck with my gut and I decided to go with this approach. And it was legitimate, right? So what I'm trying to say here is that like when you deal with speaking part 2 topics, you need to play to your strengths. You don't need to like be overly technical, which is something that we're going to cover in the next sample answer, right? But you don't really need to be like super technical when it comes to part 2. And what are the ways for you to navigate like challenging topics? Well, this is not exactly a good example of that, but one of the ways for you guys to, and for me as well, to go to navigate tricky topics is that we probably should rely on some of the more familiar ideas. For instance, here. Now, nobody asked for this particular context. Sure, I answered the question. So this happened a while ago when I was still working for my previous company. This is the answer, right? Answer. Oh, hold on. Answer. What? Where's that? This answer. At the time, I was the head of the science department. Nobody asked for this, But as I've mentioned, I can talk about my work pretty flawlessly. So this is a sample idea, a familiar or a typical idea about my work. I could have gone on and on and on about the fact that I was busy and mistreated and then the company went bust, but I decided to put a lid on things like that. And I focused on only this detail, and then I would move on to something more specific and more directly tied to the topic, right? More directly. It's still a typical idea though, but more directly tied to the topic. Okay. Down here, I could tell that she was slightly out of her element. Again, nobody asked about this, but all right, this is a typical idea. Me helping out a colleague. And I think that I don't feel like I don't assume that I have used, the idioms here, the idioms that are shown here that frequently in this course. But then again, I use them a lot, right? To be out of your element is to, feel not so confident. To go out of your way to do something is to do something that you normally don't do. To go overboard is to do a bit more than necessary, but in a bad way. What was missing from the equation? Oh my God, it's such a nice phrase. Missing from the equation, right? But still, for me, it's a typical thing to say because I talk about my work all the time. And well, this never happened, to be honest. This never happened. But like I did do my own research into physics processes at one point in my career. And I have worked out different ways to deliver lessons related to thermal processes and things like that, right? And I did help someone with planning the lessons. So for me, talking about all of these elements is a breeze, and I decided to patch these ideas together because I was very fluent in ideas like these. Down here though, down here, if you know me, you should know that I say these things all the time when it comes to learning new things, right? Sorry, I'm not quite sure why I'm putting you on the spot now, but okay, I want to ask someone else. Duke, were you around when I essentially abused this idiom, hit the ground running?
I would say yes.
You were? Were you there?
And every time, like, like, how do I say this? Every time, like, you use this kind of the same, like, when you like scold for not doing a good job, you
Oh,
will say like you didn't hit the ground running.
okay, okay. Yeah, that does ring a bell. Okay.
Like when
Essentially,
you make a comment about us not making a good enough impression or sentence or not connecting, you use just add
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
comment.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, sure. That's very strong evidence. Thank you. Okay, as you can tell, what I'm saying is that um like I do use idioms a lot and I use them in like different contexts. So when I say, well, she didn't exactly hit the ground running, this isn't the first time that I have used this idiom. I've used it in a lot of cases, especially in this class. Like usually at the beginning of the class, we're going to have like a sort of speaking mock test. And if you don't really do well, that's something I'm going to say, right? You didn't exactly hit the ground running for me. There's also another idiom that I often use. Like for me, you didn't exactly hit the nail on the head. You were able to speak very fluently, but some of the words were slightly inappropriate. Yeah, I say that all the time. Essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is that I did not freestyle, right? At least for this particular topic, I didn't freestyle at all. I actually fell back on the ideas that I knew how to use. And that is something that I want you to develop as well. You can take a page out of my book. You can use my ideas if you want, but or you can create your own, ideas and things like that. But the thing is that you have to have something that you know how to express very well, so that like when you're asked questions, if you don't really have enough brain power to generate ideas on the spot, you can still say something based off of the things that you have already talked about. And I think that is a very positive habit. It's just that, for some reason, when it comes to speaking, a lot of us have antagonized the concept of learning by heart. I do think that learning by heart is very boring, but when you learn something by heart, by repeating, that thing more than a few times, then I think that it's a very natural process. Okay. Down here, from here to here. Again, something very typical for me. Typical ideas. Okay, typical. So as you can tell, like 80% or maybe 75% of this answer is, well, just familiar ideas. Okay. So this is not something that I would be able to, not something, hold on, what am I trying to say here? Okay, what I'm trying to say is that if I'm asked to talk about an actual English lesson, I honestly don't think that, I'll do a good job at it. Okay. So if you want to freestyle, if you want to speak off the top of your head, the ball is in your court. It's just that when you're taking the test, the focus is not on your authenticity. It's more about your performance and how well you can deliver a message. So think about that and try to, garner the resources that would allow you to do so. Okay, let's continue. Okay, there's this question here. Which ideas in the given script can be used in the following topics? Miss Chang Fan, please. Do you think that I can use this script to talk about someone who expresses their feelings well?
I think yes. Yeah, to some
Okay.
extent, like you can use the part about the teacher. Yeah, during the class.
And how can I cover the express their feelings very well?
I think this part you still need to add some of new ideas. After you, I mean, like after you talk about like how she managed the class, like explaining some of the basic concepts like conduction, something. Love the fact that phenomena were totally observable. I think after that you can talk a bit about the how she expresses her feelings about the
Okay.
yeah.
So perhaps, she was very happy and oh, that can be a hard task. How can you describe the ability to express feelings?
Still kind of recycle the ideas about
No,
it.
I mean, at this point, we're already done with the typical ideas, right? We have already covered from here to here to here to here. And then, okay, so the introduction was messy, but she found her groove. So we have 30 seconds left to prove that we know how to talk about someone who expresses their feelings well. So what details are you going to put in this script to fulfill that task?
Okay, so for example, after the class, I think she has done really well in kind of expressing her feelings and emotions. She kind of talk a lot about like how she was out of her element at first. I mean, she was kind of nervous about like delivering the English lessons about thermal processes, which are definitely not her major. After that, but after that, she kind of it was a bit hard, but I'm trying.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my suggestion is something that I would agree with you, but I would say that was a very lovely suggestion. I do think that you
Yeah, I
continue.
mean, I think like I can talk more about like her facial expression too. You know,
During the class.
yeah, after the class, I mean like during
Yes.
the last 30 minutes.
Yes. During the class, her facial expressions, like she was very happy and she fully expressed it. And there were a couple of times when like the students in the class were a bit noisy and she was upset, but she communicated that message very well, that she told the kids that she was upset and she disciplined them, but she didn't come across as being mean,
Yeah,
right? But you
yeah,
can say, you can talk about her facial expressions.
yes.
Nice.
Or like add some more ideas when she kind of organized the game for vocabulary revision. I think it's kind of good to add the ideas how she can stir up the atmosphere of the class.
So she expressed excitement.
Yes.
Okay. She expressed excitement. Nice. Okay. So let's say 80% of the script. You will still have to tweak things a little bit just to make sure that everything makes sense. But 80%, this is a solid script for this topic. Thank you, Miss Chang. Next then, Zui. Just one more question, then we move on with the second script. Describe a time when you search for information on the internet. Okay. What do you think?
Okay, so oh, so I mean, am I supposed to use one of the parts of the script? Or
The question is, which ideas in a given script can be used in the
oh,
following topics?
so the idea that can be used now is about, initially being out of the element, and
So essentially, you just need to change one thing about this script.
yeah, change the subject, the person who is out of the element.
Done, 95%, right? So you were preparing for that lesson about thermal processes and you were out of your element, and perhaps someone else decided to lend you a helping hand, but that person did not go overboard. They just let you like work out what was right and what was missing from the equation. And at the beginning of the class, you didn't hit the ground running, but then you found your groove. Right? 95% done, done, and done. Thank you, Zui. All right. That was brilliant. Now, Zui, do you notice that? That was something special. Do you know what just happened?
No.
Really? You didn't notice something special that has just happened?
No.
I was giving you a
Absolutely.
compliment,
Oh, I mean,
right? I mean, I don't do that. I said that you were
Okay.
brilliant.
Okay, that was a brilliant idea. Not I was brilliant, so whatever.
Well, we agree to disagree then. I'm not going to compliment you again.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a different script here. I would like someone to breathe some life into the words here. And the question is describe a traditional product. And I would like you to tell me um, how exactly, hold on, I'm trying to formulate a question here. It's a bit hard. So the topic is describe a traditional product. I'd like you to have a look at the script. One person will help me, reading the script aloud as if they're actually, saying it. And the question is about the formation of this answer. How exactly are the ideas arranged or created or generated to answer the topic? Okay. Now, Khả Anh, please have a good run with this one, please.
Oh, okay. So the traditional products that you know spring to
Oh, okay,
mind.
okay. People, fine. Hold on. I have an idea here. A couple of days ago, my students actually taught me this trick. Do you know this trick? Do you know the popcorn game?
Popcorn?
Popcorn.
No, I
No,
don't.
okay. I would like you to just read the script, okay? And you can pause anywhere. You have to pause. you pause anywhere, you call the next person, and that person has to continue reading from that point on, and that person is going to do the same thing that you do. They're going to stop somewhere and ask the next person to read the next part. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so for instance, we say, okay, so the additional product that, sprang to Duy, then what does Duy have to say?
Okay.
No, hold on, I'm just asking Duy, if Khả Anh said, okay, so the traditional product that, sprang to Duy, then Duy, what do you have to say?
Mine, when I read the question, was silk.
So I want to talk about that today.
Okay, so I want to talk about that today.
And then, well, I don't know much about Rina. And then
That sounds fun.
it's a good game, right? My students actually taught me that. Wow, these are brilliant kids. Not in science though. These kids are dumb. But anyway,
Fun.
let's have some fun here. Wow, as you can see, I am incorporating activities into my classes, right? Innovative. You have to stay ahead of the curve. Now, Kai, please have a blast.
Okay, so the traditional products that sprang to mind when I read the question was silk. So I wanted to talk about that today. Well, I don't know much about silk, to be honest, outside V.
Aside the fact that it's a clothing material, and I guess one of the defining characteristics of this particular material is the fact that it's very breathable and on
Oink.
It's very high maintenance. Like people who wear silk tend to be very wealthy and they have to preserve their silk clothes. Trang.
With Chang, Võ Chang, này Võ Chang. Chang Võ, it's your turn.
In specific ways, which I obviously don't know because I don't wear silk, my mom has purchased the
again.
see products a few times, but I think that because of the fact that it's really hard to keep the clothes together,
she has also decided to switch to other more durable materials. Now, I first learned about this traditional product when I was a high school student, and let's say who's the victim here? Đức, please.
And it was actually a part of a chapter in chemistry, and I think that it was organic chemistry. I remember that particular part, Rina.
Because it was really hard for me at the beginning. I just couldn't really wrap my head around what my teachers was talking about. And there was this project kind.
At the end of the units, and we had to do some research into some Minh Đức.
Some research into some clothing materials, and of course, our team decided to go with silk. And I have to say, at the beginning, Khải.
When I read about silk, I didn't really understand its importance to our culture, and I only focused on the chemical composition of the material.
Okay, that was well, it was a fun ride when I gave you the demonstration, but people, you need to be more vicious with this game, okay? Like your pauses were too obvious. A few times, Khả Anh, really? No, 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 no. That's not what you're supposed to do. Look, first of all, when it comes to the overall rhythm, I think that only Miss Chang, Miss Rina and Miss Chang Vo did a good job. Everybody else, you fumbled the ball. Like your intonation was awful. Your chunking was all over the place. You focused too much on reading the sentences in a very robotic kind of way. Now, don't think that I didn't pay attention to what you were saying. All five of you did a horrible job. The Miss Chang Võ and then Miss Rina, Miss Chang Phạm did a wonderful job, right? They kept the composure. But all right, that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is that when it comes to this game, you have to be more vicious. You understand? For instance, you say something like, here, you have to make it sound like it's horrible. Like, I guess one of the defining characters of this Chang, right? Of this Chang, and the Chang said, particular material is the fact that it's very breathable and it's very high maintenance. Like people who wear tenzui, for instance, right? People who wear tenzui tends to be very wealthy, and they have to, preserve Mingduk, that kind of madness. I want more of that, people. I want more of that. All of you were too civilized, with the exception of Kai. Kai was able to pull off some nasty call outs. But yeah. I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, all five of you did a horrible job, okay? But let's talk about this particular script here. Describe a traditional product. Wang, please. Would you consider this to be a typical way to talk about a traditional product?
No.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
But would you consider this script to be a valid answer?
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about this answer here. One that I forced you to say that it was legitimate. I don't know much about silk, to be honest. So right off the bat, the premise of this entire script is that I don't know much about it. Okay, it's just an honest confession. Outside of the fact that it's a clothing material, and I guess one of the defining characteristics of this particular material is so on and so forth, right? So this part, would you consider to be typical or topic specific?
A typical idea about describing clothes. Like
Okay. Yeah, typical for clothes, right? But I wouldn't say typical for me because I don't describe clothes that much, right? But not for me since I don't talk about clothes. Okay. But all right, that was a good find. Down here, my mom has purchased silk products a few times. I think that, because of the fact that it's really hard to keep the clothes together, she has also decided to switch to other durable materials. Typical or topic specific?
maybe specific approach when you drag other people in. Specific.
No. Yeah, okay, sure. This is actually a typical idea, and it's also a very typical approach. I had nothing to say. I don't know much about this material, but if I keep on saying that I don't know much about it, I'm going to drive myself to a dead end, right? My back is going to be against the wall. That's not something that I want, right? So I'm going to drag someone in and talk about that person instead. Not just me, but other people. It's a very lovely technique to just keep on speaking without, having to come up with technical details, right? Okay, down here. Now, would you consider this to be typical or topic specific?
Typical idea about learning process.
Clever. Typical about learning things, right? So, and then there was a bit of like topic specific information here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, if if I were to be honest, like this was clearly a very challenging topic, right? As you can see, like I didn't exactly talk about the technical aspect of silk, obviously because I didn't know anything about it, right? So I didn't really like figure everything out in a very like mathematical, surgical kind of way. I just knew right away that, okay, I have to talk about a traditional product, but I don't know anything about traditional products. Or maybe I do, it's just that I don't talk about them that often, so they're not exactly springing up to mind. they're not really springing to mind here. So I decided to talk about silk, and I wanted to tie the product to something else that I was already proficient with, which was ideas about education. All right. So yeah, I was able to squeeze out, bits of information regarding silk, right? It's breathable, it's very high maintenance. People who wear silk tend to be very wealthy and they have to preserve silk clothes in very specific ways. This is topic specific, by the way, which I obviously don't know because I don't wear silk. But that's all I can muster. I mean, if I were forced to go any longer with regard to the technicality of like silk production or silk preservation, I wouldn't be able to just keep on going. Okay, so this is as far as I can go when it comes to like the technical side of silk. And then I essentially just switched to talking about something else, like my mom, right? I mean, she has never purchased silk, but I talk about buying things, right? And the original script here is that like I usually say something like, well, when I buy something, I actually have to keep tabs on discount codes because I don't want to like waste money on buying things. I'm just really that stingy. My mom, on the other hand, tends to be a lot more frivolous when it comes to her shopping habits. And the other day, she bought a very expensive shirt or skirt or something or another. And then I personally thought that it was too much, the price, but she thought that she got a good bang for her buck. So for me, that would be the typical idea, right? Keep tabs on discounts because I'm stingy. As in, like, I don't want to, hold on, I don't want to spend money on clothes. I was stingy, but my mom is pretty frivolous when it comes to shopping, right? And I thought that, it was a rip-off, but she said that it was it was good value for money, or she got a good bang. She got a good bang for her buck. Okay, so this would be the full idea. The full idea. Keep tabs on discounts because I'm stingy, right? Or maybe I had to keep tabs on discounts because I was really living from paycheck to paycheck, and I couldn't really afford to buy expensive things at full price, right? That was practically suicidal. Okay, and essentially I resorted to a typical idea that I knew how to talk about very well. Down here, but when I was a high school student, again, it's education, right? So this is my territory. Okay. Couldn't wrap my head around something or couldn't really make head or tail of something. Okay. It was really hard for me at the beginning. I didn't hit the ground running at all. Right? So as you can see, what I'm saying here is that I'm not quite sure about you, but I do have ideas that I'm very confident with. It doesn't mean that I'm going to speak super fast when I'm covering them, but if my brain ceases to function properly for a moment, I have ideas to follow. Not vocabulary, not grammar, but ideas. Okay. And I would like you to develop ideas like that as well. Um, if you can't really think of anything off the top of your head, then it means that perhaps you need to change your approach. Because even native speakers repeat phrases all the time. And the more they repeat certain phrases, their delivery of these words and ideas is actually sharpened. Okay? That's all. Any question regarding speaking part two? No? We're going to move on to part three then. Essentially for part three, this is what examiners usually do, okay? Look, you're gonna give them answers, and when they feel like your answers have already displayed a certain level of proficiency, or when your answers have already given them enough information, they're gonna chime in with a question regarding what you have already said. Okay? Here, so what you're gonna do now is that you guys are gonna ask one another questions, and then at each break, the other person would have to think of a question to discuss the point, and then the person that is answering would have to continue answering that question. Right? So I have a suggested question here. Right? But you can come up with your own if you want. Okay, the first pair, please. Miss Chang Phạm, and then Khả Anh. Miss Chang Phạm, you can read this. Khả Anh, you can read the question. Why are?
Why are traditional products important?
Okay, I think that this can be explained in various ways. The first reason is that traditional products are in a way part of our cultural heritage. I mean, here in Vietnam, there are various traditional products that are celebrated and honored in mainstream media like bánh chưng, áo dài, and also silk.
Khả Anh, you need to be more active here.
Do you think that a lot of Vietnamese people are taking these traditional products for granted?
Well, it's kind of hard question for me because I have never thought about it this way. I think most of Vietnamese people now really appreciate the traditional and cultural identities and also heritage or any kind of local products. I mean, like for example, in Bachang village, schools or university always try to organize the trips or like the field trip for students to come here and try to make pottery or ceramic products. That is the way school, and so that is the way young people or like adults can understand more about their culture and traditional products and appreciate things more.
Okay, I have a question for you. Would you consider her answer to be satisfactory?
Can you come again? The last
Would you
term,
consider her
second?
responses to be adequate, as in, like, did she answer your question?
Yes. Does she
Okay,
know how to?
fine.
Yes.
Sure. We're gonna move on then. The next pair, Duy and then Chang Võ. Chang Võ, you're a newcomer here, so you get to choose. Do you want to answer, or do you want to ask questions?
So, so I would like to try to answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well then, Chang, you're gonna read this essentially, and then Duy, you're gonna come up with a question at the end.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Chang, please. And people often talk about.
Yeah, and people often talk about these products with a lot of pride because they beyond their physical presentations. They also represent some of their cultural values that have persisted with our country for a very short, very long period of time. For example, when people think of bánh chưng, they think about their traditions associated with that. When people talk about áo dài, they think about the beauty of a woman. Men also wear áo dài, but for some reason, we are not as appreciated as women in that particular department. So yeah, I think that traditional products are important because they, in a way, embody the values that we believe in. Yeah, let's ask me.
Okay. Okay. Um, So, why do some of the traditional products outdated these days?
Outdated, right?
Yes, outdated. Yes.
Well, I do believe that there are several reasons why some traditional products has been outdated. One of the first reason is that um, I think the globalizations is one of the main point. People nowadays they love to keep update the latest trends. For example, instead of wearing LEI, they prefer to wear like Western suit or like I think something really versatile like jeans or t-shirts. And another reason is because of social media. The the widespread of social media about lifestyle, about um clothing. So I think that's have a huge impact on the ways people value their traditional products. Yeah, that's it.
Done. Well, Z, wow, she knocked it out of the park, huh? Well, then, would you consider her answer to be valid?
Yes, I think so. It was mostly valid. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's continue. Next pair we have V and then Oing. V Oing. Isn't that the name of a singer? Okay. V, I like you to sorry, Oing, I like you to read and then V can answer, okay? V hasn't answered a single question in this entire lesson. She must be crying herself to depression right now. Oing, Oing, you can ask the question. Do you think traditions are important for a country?
Do you think traditions are important for a country and why?
I think that the obvious answer here is yes, but then I do have to say that in this day and age, where there are all kinds of trends and new fashions, it's kind of hard for people to have a full appreciation of their traditions.
So more than, what do you think the governments and the governments can promote traditional products among young people?
Well, I suppose there are many ways that the government can do to promote traditional products. Um, the first thing I can think of is that they can organize more cultural festivals and exhibitions. So these events can allow the artisans and the local designers to showcase their traditional crafts and close to the locals and tourists. For example, some of the fairs or cultural festivals can introduce more traditional clothing or handmade clothes to a wider audience. And this will not only increases the public awareness, but can also help the designers sell their products and make a living. And another approach I think is that
Oh,
they
hold on,
can.
hold on. Oing, you didn't have any motivation to jump in and stop her madness? Really?
I think she does well.
I mean, yeah, I mean, she did a fantastic job. What do you mean by well? She did a fantastic job, right? Now, the question is, did she answer your question? And do you think that her answer is valid?
Maybe the answer is valid, but I think she can add more details about the stakeholder that I mentioned, young people.
Oh, valid. You see, when you could have stopped her midway to inquire more about that, like to twist the knife a bit further into her wound. Well, you missed that opportunity, and then V got away with it. Okay, but then V, you did a good job. But then you should probably pay attention to what Oing said. She specifically asked about what now?
Young people. I should
Okay,
correct that.
and what were you trying to say?
I mean, I should add that subject, young people, into the part.
Yes, that's the spirit of dealing with criticisms. Lovely. Now, V, you're going to help me wrap up this class by asking the next person a question, okay? Now, Duke, please read this, but I absolutely believe that. And then V is going to bombard you with a question, okay? Now, Duke, read. Who is, sorry, before we continue, who is IPU? This symbol looks familiar. Is that you, Kai?
What?
You have
Okay.
your name is no longer Kai, and your name is IPU.
Yes, it's me, Kai. Yeah, I
Okay,
just
sure.
switched to an iPad.
Okay. Let's continue then, but I absolutely believe that.
But I absolutely believe that should all know our cultural roots and show enough appreciation for what we have inherited, culturally speaking. And here in Asian countries, a lot of areas have become westernized. And by that, I mean people are now using Western products and celebrate Western holidays. But the young generation are, I think, becoming more cognizant of the fact that they are losing their cultural roots.
So, in what ways do you think that in what ways do using more products and clothes from the West can can negatively affect the tradition of a country?
Okay, V, I'd like you to do it again. That was messy. Good
Yeah,
Lord.
sorry. In what ways the using Western products and clothes can negatively affect the tradition of a country?
V, again, if you have already used dust, you don't need can anymore. What's wrong with your grammar?
Sorry, in what ways the using Western products and clothes negatively affect the tradition of a country?
I think the most obvious way is that if we switch to using more Western originated products and clothing, it will like we reduce our own value in our traditional products and clothing. Like if Vietnamese people now wear jeans and sweatshirt a lot more than they wear outside, then the cultural value that have been carried, that have been embedded in outside for centuries will be lost in time. And also, if we use Western products, we may become uh, how do I say this? More accustomed to the way that Westerners do their thing. Like they didn't celebrate we wasn't big on Christmas, but now we do a full blown party for just one day to celebrate Christmas.
Thank you. Well, V, again, you sort of just forgot that you had the duty to stop her, to stop him. But, well, then for you, V, the question is, did he answer your question? And do you like his answer?
Yeah, I think his answer can cover my question.
So, but did you like it? Or did you feel like it was horrible?
Yes, and I think he adds some details to make it clearer.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you, V, although you kind of lost the plot towards the end. Okay, that's it for our training session today. I think that we have covered lots of ground today. First of all, I do think that we're going to play that popcorn game again somewhere down the line. Not for all of you, because for some of you this is the end of the line. But for those who will continue this journey with me, I have that game for you, right? And I expect you to take things up a notch the next time we play this game. Okay? Yeah, man, it was good. I think that we have already covered the purposes of all of these activities. As you can tell, like I don't know, I mean, how should I say this? Like the focus of this course is really for you to acquire the ability to think in complete ideas. In speaking part one, that is. In part two, the focus is on your willingness and your reflexes in terms of like pulling more familiar ideas into what you say. And that's something that native speakers do all the time. It's just that they do so seamlessly that you don't seem to think that they have a strategy for that. And they don't. When you do something very competently, you don't really need to have a strategy for that. Formulas are for amateurs. Those who can execute like strategies very swiftly and efficiently don't really have to check the guidebook with regard to what they need to do. So that's something that you need to pay attention to when it comes to part two. And for part three, the real question is whether or not you can actually extend your ideas. And then, some examiners might not be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. So they're gonna stop you midway and bombard you with all kinds of questions, right? So for you, what you need to do is to make sure that you keep track of what you say and make sure that you display the same level of fluency throughout all of your responses. Okay. To be honest, I didn't like all of your answers. Oh, I have to let the cat out of the bag. But I didn't like all of your answers, but this is a revision lesson, right? So we can perhaps, like turn a blind eye on some of the amateur mistakes regarding grammar. Right, V? Really?
Sorry for that.
Yeah, you should be sorry for making that kind of sentences. But anyway, I'm gonna be extra hard on you in other lessons, but for revision lessons, I would say that you did a good job today. Today, that is. And to end things on a high note, I want to give everybody a compliment. I think that you all have fabulous clothes. Okay, that's a compliment. All right. That should be it for today then. Bye-bye.